I lie awake at night, thinking about it all the time.
Yeah, but you don't have to, Uncle Gabe, you know?
I got to know that you understand that I tried to tell him not to talk to the police. That those kids were bad news.
18 episodes for the first season tells me Sasha Penn and those that stars are in it for the long haul when it comes to Power Origins. And one of the topics that we've been through over the recent weeks, which actually fits quite well with the narrative of Power Origins, is Ghost, his backstory, his choices, or rather the illusion of choices he had when he was younger. For those who haven't seen my Power Red Pill and Blue Pill breakdown, I took the theme from The Matrix as well as other TV shows such as The Wire, Squid Games, and applied it to Power. I applied it to Power because it just makes sense when you look at the entire trajectory of not just Ghost's journey from when he was younger, but also generally what we've seen as a major theme throughout the world of Power. It does also kind of act as a perfect segue to talk about Power Origins. So, in this particular breakdown, we are going to be revisiting the Red Pill and the Blue Pill theory. Based on the news that was released a few days ago, we're going to take a look at the mystery of Ghost's backstory, why and how this series can run for 18 episodes a season, how realistic is it to really go for 4, 5, or maybe even 6 seasons? We're then going to take a look at various relationships including Kanan, Ghost's mother, his father Curtis St. Patrick, Breeze, and also other characters that we could potentially be introduced to, which will then leave us with a final chapter of how I believe, and this is a prediction that may take a couple of years to play out, but how I believe they lay the foundation to a certain few characters that could potentially appear in the current timeline. So stick with this video right through to the very end, because there definitely is a lot of information to unpack. But first up is the small description that Deadline gave just to tease what we can expect for Power Origins Season 1. Fun, rambunctious exploration of a new timeline in the Power franchise, which will highlight the unbridled audacity of young men on the rise, determined to become legends in the game. And legends is probably an understatement. We watched Tommy and Ghost throughout Power and we're still following characters like Tommy in Chicago, Tariq in New York, and soon we're probably going to be following them together in Power Legacy, whether that be in New York, LA, or another city. But for me, they're beyond legends because they set the foundation of the entire Power world. It started all the way back here in 2014 inside Club Truth. It started here with Miguel Alvarez, what we saw with their relationship throughout Power, with the St. Patricks, the business relationship with Felipe Lobos, to Milan, to Jason Michich, Angela walking into Club Truth, and Kanan in prison. And what we saw throughout Power, this relationship, hints and teases about their past, which was left really ambiguous. We know about Ghost and Tasha sending Kanan to prison. We know all about Ghost killing Breeze, but there's still so much more to their rise, which resulted in them getting here.
You know, for two knuckleheads that grew up like us, Tommy, to make it in the city, man, ain't no small shit.
This is what made us want to know more about these characters, and that's what they're teasing with the show's first real logline. Power Origins is going to be a show which will highlight the audacity of Ghost and Tommy on the rise, and their determination to get right to the very top of the food chain.
You know the easiest way to sneak up on your enemies is to make them think that they already won.
I get it. Gotta be one move ahead.
Nah, son, you gotta be 3 moves ahead.
Now, how'd you get to the top of the food chain? For those who have played chess, it's a very slow, patient, and strategic game. Hence why I think they've got 18 episodes for Season 1. The pawn can only move 1 square at a time apart from his first move, and that's what Ghost and Tommy will start as in Power Origins. They're not going to be these cold, ruthless, strategic drug dealers that we met in Power. There are sacrifices that are going to have to be made along the way, such as killing Breeze and sending Kanan to prison, and definitely a lot more than just that. But the fact that we saw them here at the beginning of Power, that proves if you're strategic enough, smart enough, step by step, you can go right to the very end, become a queen, or in real life terms for Ghost and Tommy, kings.
These are the pawns. They like the soldiers. They move like this, 1 space forward only.
All right, but if I make it to the end, I'm top dog.
Now that's the early journey that they're teasing with this description. We're going to see their early life, their trials and tribulations, the challenges they're going to face from street level to a personal level. And just like in chess, we're going to see things unfold in a very patient manner.
That's my friend, Jamie St. Patrick. He drove me here.
The punk from the corner? The drug dealer? I thought I told you to stay away from that boy. He's no good.
Step by step, Power Origins will tell a very in-depth story of their rise, the crews that they work with, their street level relationships, but I do think family is going to play a big role in Power Origins, just like it is for Raising Kanan. The overall arching theme for Raising Kanan is it's a family story of the Thomases. For Power Origins, it's going to be about the rise of these young characters, how they turn from boys into men, from young innocent kids into heartless killers and drug dealers with the help of Kanan and Breeze.
Back then, Kanan kept us in line. Taught us the business, made us men. Ghost and I owe your father big.
But there's also going to be that element of family that plays a role. So, when we're actually talking about 18 episodes for the first season, which is something Power have never done before, this is something that probably caught us all off guard. Nobody was expecting this. But the fact that it is going to be 18 episodes for the first season, it tells me that they're going to be very patient with the story, and Sasha Penn really is going to be very carefully crafting a story that makes sense. You guys have heard me say this before, Power Book 2 Ghost was a very fast-paced show. 10 episodes a season for that particular show just felt way too less. There was so much happening, so many character arcs and storylines, and we take a look at season 4 for example, it just felt very rushed. Well, now we're getting 18 episodes for the first season of Power Origins, so Sasha Penn can really take his time and go really deep into two of Power's biggest characters. So, I wouldn't even be surprised if the show starts maybe say in 1992 to show Ghost and Tommy when they were younger kids, Tommy being bullied in the streets and Ghost running up and helping him fight off these bullies.
You ever tell you about the time these two boys jumped him? We lived in a black neighborhood. Called them all kinds of names for being white. James found those boys. Gave them what they had coming to them.
We then see a Kate Egan and how she neglected Tommy during his early childhood.
There was that time when I was 6 years old and you disappeared for a fucking week and I had to fucking steal food from poor Mrs. Jenkins next door.
We also saw how she was a coke addict back in Power, and in Power Book 4 Force they even added even more depth to this backstory, which I do expect to see in the early parts of season 1 for Power Origins. I am fully expecting to see this drug addict of a mother, Kate neglecting Tommy where he has to go over to Mrs. Jenkins next door to steal some food and just causing mischief in the streets, because let's not forget, back in season 3 of Raising Kanan, we did see this Easter egg of Tommy's name being graffitied on one of Rock's shops that she purchased, so we know they're about in Queens at this moment in time. And who knows, in Power Origins we may even see that scene with Tommy graffitiing Rock's shop. I think it would be a really cool way to kind of tie the shows together, and kind of a crossover in the sense of the timeline, just to show these guys were in and around Queens as kids causing mischief. And just on a quick side note, I don't actually think they're going to be showing Ghost and Tommy in Raising Kanan in season 5 either, because based on the article that was released by Deadline, Hollywood Reporter and so on, they're still yet to cast Ghost and Tommy. Even on their social media they mentioned keep your eyes peeled on the casting news, and if that's true, if they haven't cast a young Ghost and Tommy just yet, then there's no way they can be in Raising Kanan at this moment in time, or in season 5, because they finished filming season 5 a very long time ago. We may see them in an after end credit scene or an Easter egg like the graffiti, we may hear Tommy or James, but I'm just keeping everybody's expectations in check for Raising Kanan. I don't want to give you guys false hope and say Tommy and Ghost are going to be in season 5, because I don't think they will based on them not even being cast yet. Unless they've been cast and they're playing games with us, I really wouldn't put it past them. But at this moment in time, I'd say it's very highly unlikely we see them in season 5 of Raising Kanan. But I am expecting to see a lot of the early life for Tommy and also Ghost, and we are going to get to Ghost in detail in just a moment. But this whole 18 episode thing for season 1, I do think they are in it for the long haul. I do think we're going to see the show take it back in time and show their early life, just like they did with a younger Kanan when he was being bullied in Paisley Park. And I really do think it is quite important to show us this, because it goes back to my breakdown of the red pill and the blue pill. In that particular breakdown, I highlighted the importance of the early years, how your environment, your parents, and influences around you play a huge part in the path you take. Ultimately, the decision is definitely yours and yours only. But I also looked at the perspective of how choice is sometimes an illusion, and that's because of the environment that Tommy and Ghost grew up in. The influences that would have been around them such as Kanan and Breeze, and we all know how much of an influence they're going to be on both.
Back then, Kanan kept us in line. Taught us the business, made us men.
Raising a young boy into a man is normally a father's job, or for those single mothers who no doubt do a great job in the real world but have to play both roles, I salute you all because I know it's not easy. But it goes back to my point. Sure, the decision is yours and yours only, but at the same time you're also a kid. You're at the mercy of your environment, your influences at the time. Kate wasn't exactly a great role model. Tony Teresi wasn't in his life either. So who are we going to see him turn him from a boy into a man? Kanan and Breeze. He genuinely had no choice but to take the path of the red pill. But let's move on to the topic of, not Ghost, James St. Patrick.
We knew this guy Breeze when we were kids. He came up with Ghost. He said the kid had the ability to disappear. You saw him coming, you never saw him leave.
Now we all know a young James St. Patrick got the nickname of Ghost from Breeze. So when we're actually talking about 18 episodes for season 1, we may not even hear the name Ghost in the early parts. We might just be introduced to a young James St. Patrick, because who knows whether Tommy and Ghost will meet Kanan and Breeze in season 1. Even if they do, even if they meet Kanan, will they meet Breeze? Will a young James have done enough to earn the nickname of Ghost by the time season 1 comes to an end? Very difficult to tell at this moment in time. But back to the point of the red pill and the blue pill. Sometimes you really are the product of your environment. You're at the mercy of your influencers. We've spoken about Tommy and what we can expect in season 1 based on his circumstances. But what I'm expecting to see in season 1 for Ghost is something very similar. Let's remember, his mother wasn't around. And I do think they're going to expand on that story as well. He also lost his father, Curtis St. Patrick. And Ghost's father's death is also another huge story we just simply have to see. We've spoken about this theory for a very long time now throughout countless of breakdowns dating back 3 years. I do think Kanan and Breeze or one or the other had something to do with it. Based on how we've seen Snaps and Pop manipulate Kanan in season 4, I really wouldn't be surprised if Kanan's pulling a very similar move in Power Origins. But however or whoever was involved in Curtis St. Patrick's death, that's another big story we just have to see, because it served as a catalyst that pushed Ghost even further into the path of Kanan and Breeze. And that's when Ghost will begin to earn the nickname of Ghost. That's when Breeze will see what Ghost is capable of. And I want to see that moment where Breeze gives him the name. I want to see what Ghost did in the streets for Breeze to say, "This is Ghost." Now just briefly coming back to the red pill and the blue pill, Ghost is someone who did actually have a choice.
My father tried to get me to turn my back on the streets. I didn't listen. I don't want you to make the same mistake, son.
We all know about the opportunity he had to go to Choate, but also how he opted to stay because he couldn't leave Tommy Egan behind. So I do think he was kind of in the middle of the red pill and the blue pill, but the moment that will completely flip him over to the red side will be Curtis St. Patrick's death. Whether we see that in season 1 or season 2 of Origins, it's very difficult to say at this moment in time. As I mentioned before, I do think the early parts of season 1 will take us back in time. It's just how far do they fast forward it thereafter? But this red pill and blue pill theme I've mentioned over the past few weeks, I'm sure it will be a theme we're probably going to revisit, especially in season 1. Now, the last topic I do want to touch on is other characters that we're going to see in Power Origins. We know Makai Curtis has been confirmed as Kanan. I'm fully expecting also to see Shameik Moore as Breeze as well, but there's also going to be others. There's also going to be other mentors and influencers that Ghost and Tommy come across. There's going to be other crews and friends that Ghost and Tommy make.
Remember time he had that little African albino motherfucker he brought around back in the day? He thought he found another white boy like him in the hood.
Again, these are just very small Easter eggs we just simply have to see. But these characters that we come across, I'm not talking your Rollers or Julio types of characters. I'm talking about characters we haven't been introduced to or know about. There's going to be a lot of new faces and new characters, and some of these new characters could potentially be alive in the current timeline. They say power never ends, and one way to really get us invested into another show in the current timeline is by getting us invested into new characters they introduce in Raising Kanan or Power Origins. Let's take Marvin Thomas as an example. If he were to survive the end of Raising Kanan, I think it's highly unlikely, but just for argument's sake, let's just say Marvin does survive. That would tell us he's alive in the current timeline, in jail or maybe even in a new city. The audience may then want to see him in Power Origins, but if we do or if we don't, if he was alive in the current timeline, best believe the Power fans will be asking the question, what's Marvin up to? We want to see Marvin. Where's Marvin? Where's he been? Where's he been hiding? The Power fans will want to see Marvin in some capacity in the current timeline because he's such a big fan favourite, and because the Power fans are so invested in Marvin. So when we have Power Origins, the fact that season 1 is 18 episodes and the other seasons could follow suit, don't you think there's going to be other characters we get invested into that we didn't know existed? Family and friends of Ghost and Tommy. And Courtney Kemp even previously teased Ghost may even have a secret brother. Now if they keep some of these characters alive or ambiguous in terms of what happened to them, that's something I think they'll definitely leave the breadcrumbs for. It's something that could take years to play out. But I wouldn't be surprised if we see one of the old gods in Raising Kanan or Power Origins either pop up in the current timeline or we see a spin-off of their own in the current timeline. Because if you kind of think about it, how old would they be? They'd probably be maybe around Tommy and Ghost's age. So just a little fun early prediction just to kind of throw out there. Watch the breadcrumbs they leave for certain characters that could potentially pop up in the current timeline. With that being said, those are some extra thoughts on Power Origins, an 18 episode season, and some of the storylines I'm expecting in season 1. But the floor is now yours. Drop all your early thoughts and predictions down below in the comment section, and as always, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.